This is Nick Nielsen, Mad Scientist of Muscle, and what I've got for you today here is a review of a really cool piece of training equipment called the Hyperbell. Now, this is from a company called JayFlex, and the Hyperbell itself has a very specific purpose to basically take an entire rack of dumbbells and allow you to use it like a barbell or like a kettlebell. So in that respect, it's basically has developed a way to attach dumbbells to a bar and to attach a dumbbell to a handle so it functions like a kettlebell. So what I'm going to do here is a quick review of each of these together but separate, essentially. I'm going to show you how the dumbbell attached to the bar, attached to the handle, and a bunch of the exercises and methods you can use to use these really innovative pieces of equipment. So essentially, what you're going to do here is start with just the bar. Now I'll show you the kettlebell handle once I've gone through the bar. Give you a close-up on here. This right here has a little bit of padding. It's a solid steel bar, very well built. Now the handle part, the part that clamps on to the dumbbell, is like this. So, and this comes completely off. So as you can see, this basically sandwiches the dumbbell handle. And I'll set this down here and show you exactly how that works. Alright, now what I want to do here is show you how this attaches on. So this is like a clamp. It's just basically going to sandwich around the dumbbell handle, just like so. Now, I want to give you a close-up here on how this sits in. So you can see it's got some notches right here. These fit right inside there. Once that sits in, that means this doesn't turn. When this is clamped shut, it's not going to rotate. It's nice and solidly in there. So it's actually a really elegant design to keep this bar from spinning, because when you've got dumbbells in here, that would be more of a possibility. So set this on the ground, get this clamped around your dumbbell handle, and this red piece is the little collar that needs to fit in there. Get that set, clamp the dumbbell in, and spin lock that collar on there. Now, as you can see, that gives you an attachment of the dumbbell onto the barbell. Now, what you'll also notice here is when I tilt the bar, it does slide a little bit. I didn't find that to be a troublesome thing at all. And honestly, in some of the exercises that I was using with this, I was actually using that to my advantage. So for example, when I was doing a curl, it was curling up, I was rotating the bar so the plate slid down, and then actually getting more of a contraction at the top and at the bottom, because I was able to get a little bit of slide on the plates here. So I'm going to zoom out here a little bit and attach the other dumbbell on here. And this will give you an idea of how this functions as a barbell. So spin the collar, open that up, clamp it on, like so. And honestly, once you do it a few times, you'll get really used to it. It's actually very straightforward, very easy. Then, boom, you've got a barbell. Instead of using weight plates, you're using dumbbells. So you don't need to have a whole bunch of barbell plates while still getting a lot of the benefits of a barbell exercise while using this. So here's what it looks like when it's all put together. So you can see I've got a couple of 25s on either side. Now, I've loaded this up with a couple 100 pounds. So I've actually done deadlifts using a 100-pound dumbbell on each side, and this thing holds up just fine. And I'll give you a demo of that as well. But essentially, this bar, they rate it to 200 pounds, essentially, and this will absolutely hold that. I wouldn't really go much higher than that, because the bar itself is steel, but the couplings on here that hold the dumbbells, those are entirely made out of plastic. So you don't want to really abuse those things. You can actually take one end off of here and use it kind of like as a mace bell. So you can do offset loading, for example, great core work, but do not use it as a sledgehammer because these pieces will break if you're getting a lot of impact on here with a heavy enough weight. They actually do a demo on their site showing basically hitting a tire just to demonstrate the strength of it, but don't use it like that, essentially is what they also say. Now, in terms of exercises, literally you can do any barbell exercise that you want with this one. You could do any sort of bench press, squats, deadlifts, the works. Because you're using dumbbells on here, it will change the height at which this sits. So if you're doing deadlifts, you can do very full range, very complete range, very excessive range deadlifts. For example, like normally if you're doing a deadlift from here, this is starting way down here. So if you want to train basically extended range of motion on a deadlift, this is a good way to do it. And if you don't have it, technically known as deficit deadlift, if you don't have something to stand on, this is a good option. You can't use a lot of weight with it, but it is very effective for that purpose. All right, now, what kind of mad scientist would I be if I didn't have some outside of the box uses for this piece of equipment? Now, one of the things I actually found to be really, really effective with this is to use this end piece separate from the bar as a fat grip. So I'll give you a close-up on that. You can see how that sits really nicely right in the palm, actually. I actually find it even more effective than a regular fat grip because of this very thing. This little extra bit really sits nicely in there. It really allows you to open up your hand even more so than a regular fat grip, which is basically just a circle. So this, I actually, using separate, I really, really like it even just for that purpose. Now you do want to make sure you have a dumbbell. You make sure you have this red piece tightened up on there so it keeps it solidly in place as you're using it for that kind of thing. And I'll show you using a dumbbell here what that looks like. So look at how that sits right there nicely in the palm, and it's beautiful for shoulder pressing. You can really get a nice press with it with a nice open palm position. All right, so going back to the exercises that you can do with this, one of the main drawbacks for this piece is you can't use it with a rack. It's just, the width is just not great enough. But to me, that's not that big of a deal because honestly, if you have a rack, you're gonna have a barbell anyways. That's just, you don't get a rack and not have a barbell. So if you wanna do squats with it, you will have to use a weight that's light enough that you can basically get it up overhead and onto your back, either by yourself or with a partner. Because, you know, getting into position for squats is, you know, like so. So you literally will need to have a light enough weight to be able to do that. Now, good for high rep stuff. If you're looking to build a lot of strength, that's obviously not going to be as effective. So if you're looking to build strength, this isn't particularly the piece of equipment that you're looking for. You will want to have a regular barbell. However, if you have limited space and limited equipment, if you've got dumbbells and you don't have room for barbells or barbell plates, this is a fantastic way to go to extend the amount of exercises you can do at home for home gym training. All right, so now we're going to have even more fun with this thing. You can actually attach this onto a single cable handle, just like so. And now all of a sudden, instead of a barbell, you've actually got a cable accessory, a cable attachment. And this just clamps on, moves freely, and it allows you to do a wide variety of different exercises. For example, you can do like a bell ringer pull down, where you're doing just this, like so. And fantastic way to go. You can attach it to a low pulley. You can do the same thing with a row. You can actually use a nice lightweight and do some wood chopping stuff where this end is basically coming down and you're pressing down. So there's lots you can experiment, lots you can do with it, and I'll show you some demos of this in action as well. So in addition to using it as a barbell, you can also use it as a mace bell. Now there's all kinds of things you can do with a mace bell, and you only need like a really small dumbbell for this. So I've got a 10-pound dumbbell on here, and you can do a lot of really cool offset loading stuff. So you can, you know, do stuff like lunges, twisting around, all kinds of stuff with it. You can do those kind of things, the mace bell swings. There's plenty of stuff that gives you the option to basically use a dumbbell, convert it into a mace bell. Alright, so what I want to do now is show you a few of the different exercises with some demos of some of the stuff that I've done using that Barbell Hyperbell. And then once that's done, I'll come back with a quick review of the kettlebell handle that comes with a bundle that you can get from the website. So this is the kettlebell handle for the Hyperbell. Now I'll give you a close-up view on that. So as you can see, it's got the same mechanism here as the barbell, and then it's got a simple kettlebell-shaped handle on here. Now, I'll be quite honest with you here, I wasn't as impressed with the solidity of this piece. This is just plastic right here, whereas the barbell has a nice solid steel bar in it. This is plastic all the way around. What I did find is when I was doing, kettlebell swings with about 40 to 50 pounds, this was holding up just fine. The handle is wide enough where you can actually get both your hands on here very easily. Some kettlebell handles, you're kind of overlapping a little bit if you want to do two-hand stuff, but this gives you a lot of good options as far as grip on here. However, once I got into heavier weights and I started swinging about 80-pound dumbbells on this, I did notice that the seam right here was starting to kind of separate and not fully open up, but I did notice a bit of separation, especially during that the upswing where there was more force and more tension on the kettlebell handle. It did hold up, it did not break, but it's absolutely more appropriate for lighter weight stuff and not super heavy swings or anything that's going to require any sort of impact or torque on here, because that is a seam right here that is kind of clamped together and could potentially, if it's got too much load and too much torque on it, could potentially open up. But if you're doing lighter weight kettlebell stuff, you're not going to run into any issues at all with this. So I'm going to open it up here and give you also a quick idea of how this sets up for swings. So it's the same mechanism where it's like a clam kind of thing where it sandwiches the weight on there. This design actually, I'll close up in on it, allows you to not only have the handle like this, so it's running perpendicular or parallel to the dumbbell handle, but you can actually rotate it like that and have it go basically more appropriate for a kettlebell swing like that, where the handle is perpendicular to the line of the dumbbell. So I'll show you that here, where that clamps in like that. So if you're doing a swing, you actually want the handle perpendicular to that. So you're doing that. Whereas if you're doing like a loaded carry, for example, if you're using two of these handles or even one of these handles for a loaded carry, you don't want that banging against your leg. So you'd want that rotated around so it's parallel to how the handle is. And these things are actually good for farmer's walks as well. Because, some handles like this I've seen on other websites where they're rated to maybe 50 pounds. These are rated to 100 pounds. And in all reality, you could probably go a little bit higher than that too. But this allows you to do basically kettlebell farmer's walks, keeping these in the same plane, same parallel kind of thing, and handle to the dumbbell handle. It's going to keep it away from your legs. It's a benefit rather than overdoing dumbbell farmer's walks, especially with heavier loads where the dumbbell plates would start hitting you in the hip. This gets that load down below the level of the hip so you can actually carry more effectively and not have that dumbbell banging up against your legs. So for something like a farmer's walk, I would have no issues going up to 100-pound dumbbells for this, which is the capacity of the handle. It's when you're starting to get into the momentum-based movements that you're getting torque on that's the only time I would be concerned about having that seam kind of open up a little bit. Now, in terms of other types of kettlebell movements, if you're really into kettlebell training, probably this is not going to be something you'll find super useful, because kettlebell snatches, kettlebell cleans, having a weird shaped dumbbell like this versus like the ball shape of a kettlebell. For example, if you're doing a clean and you're coming up and that flips around, that's going to angle, that's not going to land very well on your arm. So this is not something I would recommend using for cleans or snatches, just because it's no fault of the equipment itself, but because of the shape of the dumbbell that you're going to be using with it. So I've actually got some solid steel ones that are similar in shape to this, called kettle clamps, and I never use those for cleans or snatches or anything like that, simply because the shape of the dumbbell precludes you from being useful for that. That being said, there are exercises such as the overhead kettlebell press you could use this for. You basically would use the other hand to get some assistance into position, and then you could use that for an overhead press without any issues whatsoever. So again, you'd want, for that exercise, this handle to be parallel to the handle on the dumbbell, have that resting on your forearm, but I wouldn't recommend doing an exercise where you're flipping that up and catching it on the forearm and the upper arm, because it's not going to feel good. I'll tell you that right now. But like I said, not the fault of the equipment, that's just the shape of the dumbbell. Alright, so that is what you can do with the Hyperbell, the barbell, and the kettlebell handle. Now, of the two pieces, the barbell is definitely the stronger of the two. The kettlebell is still good, but it's only more useful for some exercises rather than all types of kettlebell exercises, where the barbell is more useful for more barbell types of exercises. Now, a couple of quick things on the barbell here. Grip width. It does obviously limit you to how wide of a grip you can take. For the most part, that's not going to be an issue. If you're doing bench press with it, could be a potential issue, in which case you could just move in and do a close grip bench press. The final thing you do need to be aware of too is these holes here, these clamps, only fit a certain size of dumbbell handles. So all your hex dumbbells, they're going to fit in here no problem. I've tested everything from 5 pounds all the way up to 100 pounds, and it clamps on here, not a problem. The pro style dumbbells, the ones with all the plates on them and the consistent with skinnier handles, also going to be just fine. So bottom line, as a piece of home gym equipment that's going to allow you to do a lot more with the equipment you've already got, the Hyperbell handles and the Hyperbell barbell fantastic pieces of equipment and something I would definitely recommend.